Back on the Football in Focus for Thursday up at the Kickback Jacks on Battleground. Good to have Dennis White with us. Dennis, what about last week's ball games? Checked out those Page Pirates. Looks like they're for real, and they got a big game tomorrow night going to Ragsdale.
Yeah, last week Page played Greensboro Worley team. First quarter, first half, Greensboro gave them a real good game. But Page defense remind us, you and I talked about the championship teams of Guilford County in the past, your Northerns and your Dudleys winning back-to-back state champions. They had great defensive players. And this is what our Page team have. Great. They have about the 4 best defensive linebackers in the state of North Carolina. And Coach Rothfuss would certainly approve that. Because his linebacker core is relentless, led by B.J. Turner. B.J. Turner is one of those guys that became one of the hardest hitting linebackers, even on special teams. There's been some hits that Turner have made, had you and I both to say ooh and ah.
Right, yeah, we cringe sometimes.
Yeah,
the guy getting hit, just getting blasted, getting hit hard.
And they have a great defense, and that defense, even the secondary don't have to do that much work because of the linebacker core. They don't have to get to that third tier of the defense, and Page have an outstanding linebacker core. Now, Page is going to be challenged tomorrow night, believe it or not, because they're going against a speedy running back like they had when they faced Dudley. And that can cause some problems because they run a lot of little short screen seam routes to their backside of the backfield, and those linebackers really going to have to be accounted. We haven't seen Page defense linebackers tested with short passes from running backs with speed, so we're going to see how that works.
What about Manus? The attack against him, Malachi Manus, strong running back for Ragsdale.
Yeah, Malachi Manus is going to give them some problems because he's very versatile. His speed, he's one of those backs that you have to account for because we saw how Northwest was able to really cause problems for that Page defense with those short passes. And if you go back and look at that film, they threw probably about 10 passes that Page linebackers wasn't accounted for in the tackles. So if you put that in the equation, Malachi Manus, Andy, you and I talked about it, he's probably one of the premier backs in Guilford County that a lot of people don't know about.
What about Devin Boykin? He's going to be busy at quarterback for Ragsdale. He may have to run that show pretty strong tomorrow night and see the whole field because you said the openings there. He's got to find those receivers, find some spaces out there in the open, and move some ball upfield.
Yeah, and Boykin cannot. One thing Boykin cannot do. This Page pressure is going to come from everywhere. They're going to stunt Big Gavin. He's going to have so much pressure coming at him, he doesn't have time to try to do a dance and move and step and throw. He's got to be very decisive. When you're indecisive against Page defense, you're gonna get smashed. And so he's got to really be thinking rather than taking that 4-step drop. He may have to narrow it down to a 2-step drop, and that's going to make your pass selection now, your shorter routes, more available to you when you're taking the 2-step drops rather than the 3 steps or the 4 steps.
And you think about the guy, the backup, Trent Jackson. He got a backup quarterback. We saw him a couple of weeks back when we saw the Ragsdale Western Guilford. He may have to come in and get involved too. And Coach Johnny Boykin, to his credit, is not afraid to go ahead and make that move, make that switch. Plus, a lot of his guys, you got Goods, you got Pratt, you got Boykin. Several of those guys play both ways for Ragsdale too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be very pivotal tomorrow because you're going to need every ounce of your energy against a Page team because when you're playing against a Page team, they're phenomenal. And you're going to have to, that's a very good point you brought up. When you're playing 2 sides of the ball on the varsity level, it's unbelievable for you to have energy on one side of the ball versus the other side. If you use all your energy on defense, offense, you're gonna be gassed. If you use it on offense, defense, you're not gonna be able to give. That's why Dudley years and years started going to you play one side of the ball. No matter how well of a player, how good of a player you are, it's come a time that you're gonna need that energy. And I would rather than have a guy like Boykin. Andy, when you think about Boykin, he has been the catalyst on their defense. Now, you have to step into the quarterback role. So his role has been primary defense this year for Ragsdale.
He's going to be busy. He's got over 1,000 yards passing, so he has been active. He's got two good receivers in Pratt and Good. They're strong. So for Ragsdale's sake, they got to get that offense clicking. They got to find points because we talked with Joe about this, talked about it on the website as well. The fact the past couple weeks, very few points available versus Page. You've had scores like 57-14, 48-0, 42-0. The offenses from Grimsley, the offenses from Northwest, offenses High Point Central, they couldn't get anything going against Page. Not even against the Page reserves could they find much scoring room.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And what we have seen with this Page defense, they are a relentless bunch of guys. They run the linebackers, as I said, downhill, and that big defensive line led by Mr. Gavin up front. Page has put together a great defense. But one of the things when you have an aggressive defense, and this could certainly be the third or fourth round, Page defense is going to be tested because, as I said, their linebackers are so used to blitzing, or running downhill full steam, and they're not accountable for the backs or a tight end. If they start running a bubble screen, if you run a team against a bubble screen or a fullback out the back from the seam route, that can cause trouble for a defense like Page. And yet, that hadn't been discovered, but we're going to see. And that's what happened. That's what happened to Page at Dudley. They was not being able to be accounted for the backs out the backfield, and that was their demise.
What about this? Who would be if you had to go today, we've had about, they've got 10 games under the belt, 9-1 Pages. If you had to pick an MVP on defense, who would be the MVP? That's a good defense.
Wow, you're absolutely right. I think B.J. Turner will have that edge for the defensive MVP. And the reason why I say that, because he doesn't take plays off. Alan Tisdale, you and I haven't seen Tisdale take a lot of plays off lately. He hasn't been that go-to defensive player like he was in the past. So B.J. Turner, man, I think I called his name 10 times a night or more, solo tackles. And then he is certainly there for Murray for his protection for punts. Murray hadn't had a punt block because of Turner is right there. He is on special teams as one of the gunners that I would want to test the ball if I see number 20 coming.
Better hit that sideline quick and get out of bounds and get upfield and get out of the way. Be on the move in a hurry.
Absolutely. So B.J. Turner, Andrew, would have to be my pick.
What about, we switch gears a little bit. Let's go to that game. You got Ragsdale and Page, plus you've got the big game Dudley going to Mount Tabor. What about the Panthers and the Spartans over in Winston tomorrow night? Big one there.
Yeah, Joe and I talked about this last week, and everybody predictions now. Here's the game time. This is out the window. What could happen? What seed? I think Dudley is playing in his best ball right now. A Dudley team. I think right now Dudley's going to show that this is what we're made of, and this is who we are. With this time of the year is when the cream rises to the crop. This is that time of the year that big playmakers step up. And if Dudley big playmakers are able to step up on defense and offense, Dudley will win that game tomorrow in a very close game at Tabor.
Put your feet in the shoes of Coach Stephen Davis. Who is going to be your big playmaker on that Dudley offense? Who do you look to be that playmaker?
I look to be and you know he's back now after the suspension. You have to look at Nigel Fitzgerald. He has been the go-to receiver for touchdowns. He was the catalyst in Southeast game when you and I covered that game. His touchdown sparked the offense, and also his ejection spark.
It did.
So he was a spark plug both ways, negative and positive. So I think Nigel Fitzgerald have to be, and is G. Simpson what is this?
He's there. He's ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got three on offense going to be G.
He might be limited to some of his running, but his passing should be there.
Right. I look at Fitzgerald, Rush, and Simpson. Those are the three big playmakers. Each one of them have to count for points on that scoreboard. If you are able to stop one, the other have to step up. In other words, if you stop Rush, Nigel Fitzgerald going to have to be your go-to guy. And if you stop Simpson from whenever they run that option, he's got to be the smartest guy tomorrow night, because that defensive table, let me tell you, we're talking about linebacker core. You got some linebackers over there that for Tabor, they blitz 9 times out of 10. They're going to blitz all night long on Dudley's team. So that's why I put Nigel Fitzgerald. He have to be big because he's got to run his routes quick. He run those quick, smooth routes. And so those are the guys on offense you have to be accounted for your big playmaker.
I'll put you in Coach Stephen Davis's shoes. Say you're Coach Davis. Do you also kind of look to do something maybe with DJ Crossan? Maybe try to get him involved in maybe a play because he's the athlete. Do you bring him in on offense? He's played a lot of defense. Do you bring him on offense and get him involved there?
You are absolutely right. You read right into it. You will use Crossan because Crossan, Andy Durham, you beg for that. You beg for DJ Crossan for offense.
Every time he touches the ball, it's like he's leaving town.
Yeah, absolutely. He's that special athlete, have that athletic ability that we've seen at Dudley. We got David Emerson. We can go down the whole list of those guys.
I like Seagraves. That punt return against Page last year, he brought the ball down to sit up the end of that game. I mean, he had to bring that ball a long way back. That was a heck of a return with Seagraves last year against Page and Hendon Hooker. To me, that was one of the best games we have seen in this area in a long. I could go back and play that one in my mind. You go to Rags tomorrow, do that by yourself. I'll go back and watch that game between Page and Dudley last year.
You're absolutely right. And you're right. I'm gonna throw one more in there that I've seen. You and I, Mallard Creek and Page, when they had
Mallard Creek and Page and Butler and Page, either one of those games.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
Games.
Those were the games of the century, man.
Another excellent game too. Since we're doing the distant replay now on our local teams, let's go back to the Dudley Charlotte Catholic game. Elijah Hood's down around the 7-yard line. He's about a half a yard for a first down and can't get it. And that was the ball game.
That was the ball game.
The game the next week for the state championship wasn't even a championship game.
Absolutely. You called it. Everybody in the stadium knew. You said if they would have went to quarterback keep on the opposite side, that would have been a touchdown. The game would have been over. Charlotte Catholic. Everybody in the stands knew who was going to get the ball.
Number 34, I think it was.
Yes, sir, 34. And that defense was geared from, I said to you, Stevie Wonder saw that coming, and they was ready for him. And that Reggie Gillespie, you go back,
Southern Guilford
game. They knew Gillespie was going to get it. And you was wondering why did they try from him from a Wildcat, because you knew everybody knew what he was going to do.
Certainly.
And that was a given. But you are right, and I think that the Dudley and go back to
that's another thing too you bring up. So talking about this football stuff, I thought about this in my pregame mental preparation today. What about Page stacking that box against Malachi Manus? Just take those linebackers and put them right behind the defensive lineman, stack that box in tight. You're playing about almost an 8-man front, and just wait for Manus to run left or right, and you got it covered. How does Ragsdale get around that? I know you got to throw the ball to break that up. How do you get around that?
If I'm Coach Borkin, I would want that. I would want that. If I'm an offensive coordinator, I'll be praying tonight that they do that, because now that's going to leave my swing pass open. They're going to leave the big tight end. What's his name, the big tight end for? Is it 80s?
I know Good and also Pratt are your two main primary receivers. Not sure about the tight end.
Right. He caught a ball against Western. He caught a couple of passes against Western. Give him the big white kid. I can't think his name slipping. I think he caught the touchdown. Is it number 17?
You got me on that one. I'll look it up tonight.
Yeah, I can't recall his name. And they was throwing some crossing passes to him. And you're right. If you set him up in the box like that, that's going to give Borkin an opportunity to look for those quick receivers. And that will really help out, open things up for Ragsdale. And then again, you've got to get the ball away. They stack the box on you. You don't know where they're coming from. Go back to what you said for years. And I love when you call that stone wall. That's like you set the stone wall by stacking the box. And when you put it in the box, again, you want to know which way it's coming. You'll be like, why they have all these players on the field? Back to the Dudley thing that you and I talked about.
You just challenge the team to beat me up field. We're going to stay right here on the line. You can't come against us here. Can't come into us, beat me up field. But I mean, if you can't get the ball up field, you can't pass up field. You can't beat that. And plus, at the same time, you stack that box. If you're waiting on Mr. Manus to come in with that run, you're ready for him. Plus, if they're passing, you got extra pass rushers. Just flood those guys to go chase the quarterback.
Yeah, and that'll really cause problems. But I think that what I would love to see if that happens, Ragsdale, to me, is one of those sneaky teams. Ragsdale is one of those teams you can't sleep on. Hey, they scored 28 points against Dudley, even though they got blown out.
They did, yeah.
They sure scored points on the top defensive team in the state. So they can score. We've seen them play against Western Guilford.
Yeah.
That was a great game.
Right.
They had to play some ball, and I think from there, if let me take you back to a conversation you and I had last week, if you don't mind. If I would have said to you, Andy Durham, you asked me a question sitting right here, rank the teams. You asked me the second night we was here, second Thursday, to rank the teams and how I think they're going to finish. We had Page finish first, Northwest and Page up there together. Then we
in
had
that conference, yeah.
in that conference. Then we had High Points, and we had Ragsdale almost
down to
last.
the bottom. The funny thing is, we looked at the schedule to broadcast the games back early in the season, maybe about the first week of the season. Our game for tomorrow night was going to be Northwest and Grimsley. I thought that might be a battle, maybe even for first or second place. Who knows, what Page would have done. But then all of a sudden, here we got Ragsdale versus Page. Not only is Ragsdale in contention, they're going for the conference championship.
Yeah, and Andy, you're a man of integrity and honesty. If I'd have been sitting here sipping some tea and would have said that Ragsdale and Page 8 weeks ago is going to be playing for the conference champ, you would have asked me to let you smell that tea to see what I was drinking.
Let's bring out a breathalyzer test. Definitely find out what this guy's working on, what he's working with.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that is a shocker. Ragsdale is there. And under new coach, and I thought about this to bring to you. When you look at the 5 Gifford County teams that have new coaches, each one of them have been doing real well this year. And not to say nothing about the coach's vacancy, but that just lets you know the caliber of players, the caliber of athletes you have for a new coach. Boykin stepped up. Boykin playing for a conference champ. Southeast Gifford almost beat Dudley Panthers under new coach. And then you look at Page under new coach Rothfuss. Have won 9 straight ball games after losing to Dudley. Won 7 straight ball games.
7 straight, yeah.
After losing to Dudley Panthers. Beat Eastern Gifford down in Eastern Gifford. Then you look at Northeast. Northeast didn't win this many games last year, and already they've won.
They probably won about twice as many as they won the past couple of years.
Absolutely.
Or they've equaled their past 2 years' production.
So you're seeing those teams, man, and that was one of your questions. She would have thrown it out to you. And you see a big difference in Gifford County. There's not a clear-cut winner in these conferences anymore like it used to be.
No dominant team like there was, and those new coaches making a big difference. Football in Focus. It's at Kickback Jack for a Thursday. Dennis White with us from Greensboro Sports and our Greensboro Sports Radio. What are tomorrow night's games? Some other key games going. What about this chance for Northern Guilford to beat Western Alamance? Western Alamance 10-0, and Northern headed that way.
But Andy, if less than T.J. Logan gonna come tomorrow, they don't. And less than Roscoe gonna come back with his little playbook, they don't have a chance.
What about Smith, Western Guilford? If Smith wins, they're 5-6. What a season that will be for them.
This is going to be the season for Smith. Some of those seniors, and one in particular, Zach White, this would be big for them to go out at 500, right at 500 season, because Smith had a 500 probably since Rodney Brewington left several years ago.
And what about Nathan White, Eastern Guilford, and also our team at Southeast Guilford? Both teams win. Eastern wins, Southeast wins. They're both 9-2.
And that is huge, both 9-2, and of course Southeast would be the conference champs. Eastern would be the conference champs.
They would
again because they beat Southeast. That is huge because when you look at Coach Tinsley, last year this time he was in preparation as an assistant coach, planning on a 11-0 team at this juncture. He was planning how his teams was going to do as an offensive backs coach, offensive back coach, down with Eastern. Now this year, he's planning what his team is going to do. He doesn't have Robinson to plan for. Can you believe that? Planning for yourself 1 year later. You're planning for yourself.
Great start for a first-year coach.
Sure is, man.
Great start there. So we got some big games tomorrow night. We've also got some things to look ahead to towards Saturday. That's when the predictions and the brackets are all due out Saturday sometime. I hope it's early afternoon Saturday when they get the predictions and brackets coming our way. We hope to see those. And a team like Page, if they win the Metro, they could easily be taking a bye the first week. Other teams, though, if Dudley falls on the road to Mount Tabor, Dudley could be taking a road trip the first week of the playoffs. That's how crazy that could turn out.
Yeah, and that's unusual. I was getting ready to bring that point up. We was talking about Dudley. I can't recall Dudley, and in the last 4 or 5 years, and you're the historian, I can't recall Dudley in the last 6 years losing 2 regular season games.
Not many.
And as you said, you're not having home field advantage for Dudley. Wow, what a blow! That's almost like you and I taking. That's like you and I taking Northwest next week and saying, "Hey, you guys are going to win 5 games." And the Durham and myself is here. So you just can't say these things. Things have to be done. And for Dudley to not to be at home at Tarpon Stadium for the first 3 games, that's hard.
And it could happen. They need to beat Mount Tabor tomorrow night. You feel like they will?
Yeah, I believe they're going to beat Mount Tabor, or I believe Dudley have.
And you're looking for a big game out of Nigel Fitzgerald tomorrow.
Yes, I am, because he's going to be the one, because they're going to key on Rush. Rush is and you and I know he's a marked man. And Andy, let me ask you this: in your professional, in your abilities with putting these playoffs, you do a great job in putting this stuff together. Would there be a chance that Eastern and Dudley will meet each other in the playoffs?
A lot of people are leaning Eastern's going small this year. I know they've been big the past couple years. I thought they'd be big again. If they are they're 3AA, then Dudley and Eastern could come together, and they could both be in the East, possibly. Yeah, that could happen.
Okay, so is that likely, or is...
Yeah, it just depends. Tomorrow night's game is so big for Dudley. If Dudley wins tomorrow night, they're in much better shape. If Dudley wins tomorrow night, they got a good chance to be the number 1 seed in that conference, because the 3-way tie, they could be number 1.
Right, and then that'll throw them in Eastern in different...
Could well be different brackets possibly then, yeah.
Okay.
And they sure wouldn't see each other early, because both teams would be conference champs. Conference champs would meet probably in the 4th round.
Right.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
So that can happen like Dudley used to play Northeast.
Right.
In the 4th round.
Yeah, by the 4th round. Yeah.
Wow.
Possibility. Dudley Eastern would be a great matchup.
Yes.
Well, you see two wild offenses. That's
yes,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Because that Eastern offense of Dominique Graves has really been productive. Very productive.
And Smith was a wake-up call. I think they tried to they couldn't rebound from the snake bite of the Page Pirates, and they went in a little laxy-daisy against Smith Golden Eagles. Smith got a big win, as you said. That was a big win for Smith, because now Smith can get a playoff spot 5 and 6.
Sure they can. They can be in. And plus, we talked with Joe about the fact that you look at the player of the year in the county, Dominique Graves is a strong candidate.
Because
based on what Eastern keeps doing.
Right. And like you said, he turned it up. And that thing, one game you told me he threw for 4 touchdowns.
6 touchdown passes in the first half.
Wow.
Yeah, first half alone.
Wow. And that was big, because that really put him over that threshold. And like you said, looking at Page, DeAndre Page, a sophomore, and put him in the mix.
Yeah, I wonder about that. It's still hard to look at. I mean, it's hard for me to give it to the younger player versus the older player.
Right, absolutely.
If their numbers are fairly equal.
Right,
but then you've got to look at how far they go in the playoffs, and we don't know that until we go week by week now.
Absolutely.
Week by week. Speaking about week by week, last week, not a good week for NC State. Went out to South Bend, Indiana, got beat by Notre Dame by about 3 touchdowns. State comes back to Raleigh this week, taking on Clemson. Could win a chance at the ACC title game if they beat Clemson. That's a big game for the Wolfpack, and if they're going to come back, they better do it this week. Otherwise, they'd be 6-3 overall, and they'd have a loss in the Atlantic Division. Their season's be pretty much over.
Yeah, I talked to your buddy. I seen him out at dinner Sunday night on Steve Warren.
Oh, yeah.
Him and his daughter.
Yeah, that's all right.
And him and his daughter, I talked with them.
So he just got back to town.
Yeah, he certainly did. And I talked with him, and his daughter asked about you, because you had just came up to the restaurant.
I was up there that Friday.
Yeah, and I talked to him, and his daughter was so excited about the pageantry and just excited about going to South Bend. That's a spectacle within itself.
Oh, yeah.
And she was just talking about, I told her, I said, yeah, I remember as a kid watching that 30-minute edition of Notre Dame and seeing them run through. And she was saying that it's just ooh and ah, And so Steve, his words was, the Packs didn't show up, and they didn't. And there was Notre Dame was ready.
Well, when the running back 98 Himes got hurt, State's running game changed, so they had to go with a power game. Reggie Gillespie. Reggie's good for about 2 or 3 yards, 3 or 4 yards, maybe 5 with a max run. He may get a 10-yard run here and there, but mainly about a 5-yard max run, and that will get it done for first down against a team like Notre Dame.
Right, you're absolutely right. And you take a kid like Gillespie, and I believe, just like you said with Logan, you and I so used to send these guys on the outside. They run them in the heart of the defense every time, and they can't generate the yardage like they did on the outside.
Yeah, it comes back to a play they run occasionally too in that game. They had 3rd and 1, and they were like, pretty much going for a pass on 3rd and 1. Just need 1 yard. You got to be able to get that 1 yard on 3rd and 1. Got to get that 1 yard.
Yeah, that's very crucial. You and I talked about that. We've seen that several times this year on different levels. And you have, as a running back, and I've seen Dallas Cowboys, Jason Garrett do it about 3 or 4 times On 4th and 1, he go forward with Ezekiel Elliott. So you got to trust your offensive line, trust your big boys up front, and pound the ball. Never throw 1 yard on a 3rd down unless you're going to go for it all.
Unless you got a great play drawn up, or you're going to go for it all, like you say.
Absolutely.
What about Wake Forest? They got a big chance to open some doors for themselves at Notre Dame. Wake 5-3, Notre Dame 7-1.
And the way Notre Dame is playing right now, the way the Fighting Irish is fighting right now, they are clicking on all cylinders, as I use that phrase so often when a team is playing all around. Coach Clawson had a great run. They've had a great season. And I don't think they're going to get it done against the Notre Dame team that I seen last week.
What about Virginia Tech at Miami? Miami hasn't lost a game. They're 7-0. Virginia Tech's not bad. They lost to Clemson, I think it was. They're 7-1.
And this you're talking about for the ACC. This is one of the pivotal games. If Miami win, Miami then will be able to play in the ACC championship game. And if Clemson win, it'll be Clemson. But like you're saying, this can be a big mix-up if Virginia Tech would to beat Miami. So then, as you go back to now, you and I was talking about with the rankings, how would they look at that if Miami would lose and Virginia Tech have lost? Would Virginia Tech get the tiebreaker since they beat Miami, or how would that work?
Probably head-to-head, I would think.
Right.
I would think head-to-head, especially if there's not anybody else involved in that. If it's just a two-way tie, if you got a chance, you go head-to-head with the same
all
record.
3 of them would have had a conference loss.
Right.
Miami, Clemson, as well as Virginia Tech.
Right. What about out of the college to the pros? The Panthers traded Kelvin Benjamin to Buffalo this week. It's one of Cam Newton's favorite receivers. They made that trade, and you got to think that's going to kind of change the pulse of the team. I'm glad Buffalo's playing tonight, and the Panthers aren't playing tonight. I'm glad Buffalo's playing tonight. Panthers don't play this Sunday when they play, taking on the Atlanta Falcons Sunday at home.
Yeah, and that was one that nobody said.
Yeah.
I mean, and all of the players were saying that, yes, it's a business. That is one that, as a fan, I can't understand that to save 3 cat lives if I had to. And Purr as well, Sir Purr as well.
Purr, right.
Look, when you look at the 3rd round and the 7th, you're looking at the 3rd pick and the 7th pick for Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills hadn't had a top pick in several years that was able to take them to the playoffs. So now you're going to exchange the best player you have right now with Greg Olsen out.
Top receiver.
Receiver, the biggest receiver, Cam Newton, safety valve.
Seemed to be his favorite target, really, because they were good friends, too.
Absolutely.
Good friends,
And you break up. And again, Andy, the Panthers have, when they did it with Steve Smith, they did it with Mike Tolbert. They did it with the back before him, Williams.
D'Angelo Williams.
Right,
sent to Pittsburgh, yeah.
And we all know how they did Steve Smith.
And they let Joe Webb go. Joe Webb is up there in Buffalo doing pretty good. He's on special teams, and he always finds a way to contribute.
And
he was a fan favorite, too.
And I know you're happy about this. They gave you one of the best defensive backs that we had.
Josh Norman.
Josh Norman.
I think he's injured now, but he's a top. If they could ever, that's one of the guys. Sometimes I talk to coaches about this. If there's one player you could get back that you let go, you wished in hindsight, wish you let that guy go. That's the guy. Even though all the crazy stuff that's happened, right. I would take him back.
I'll take him back tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I could have seen that Benjamin was being problematic or Benjamin was having catching issues, but Benjamin, that's something that no experts, nobody could wrap their head around. And then with all your years of expertise in sports, what do you see that's beneficial for the Panthers?
One thing I could see is if his contract was coming due toward the end of the year and had to renegotiate his contract, they wouldn't pay him more money. If it was a money issue, that's one thing. Plus, they complain about him being too big occasionally, his size being too big. But I told someone else, I'd put him at tight end. I like him at tight end. I'd run him there some. They say he doesn't like to block, but if you get a little bit more encouragement from somebody, you become a blocker. Yeah.
Absolutely. And those things, as you said, those workable in-house things that you can work with a guy about. And as you said,
they say that he and Funchess is pretty much the same people. Funchess 6'4", Benjamin's 6'5". There is 1 inch difference, but still they are similar receivers. But I do like Funchess as well. He's a pretty quick guy. He's got good hands, pretty reliable. But boy, I don't know who the favorite receiver is going to be now. I think you used to like Greg Olsen a lot. You used to use him a lot. Did Cam Newton? You used to let him drop it off to him back in the day.
You're absolutely right. And again, as the players were saying, NFL is a business.
Yeah.
And that happened. There's some guys that you and I was thinking was going to get traded, possibly. One of our guys, Eric Ebron, I thought that was going to be a trade. Now that put Eric Ebron in a bad predicament because next year they don't have to sign him.
Right.
And so I would rather get traded than play my last few games and don't know what's going to happen.
Tell you one thing, something's going to happen tonight when the Bills play the Jets. That's a big game on the NFL Network here at Kickback Jack. That game tonight around 8:25. It kicks off. Bills are 5-2. Jets 3-5. I would never think the Bills 5-2. I think that's outstanding what those guys have done so far this year. They could be, believe it or not, 6-2 at the end of tonight's game. The Bills could have 6 wins and just 2 losses.
Yeah, and absolutely. And when you look at the receiving core, one receiver coming to mind with Buffalo, that's on Samuel Watson. And so now you have Kevin Benjamin, Tyrod Taylor. Can you believe the options you have now with Benjamin coming? As you say, yeah, they win tonight. They can certainly improve their records.
And we went back with Joe tonight about the old distant replay. Went back on the old Buffalo Bill teams from the past. And talking about some of the guys in those days back in the 70s. I brought up to Joe the electric company. Had Reggie McKenzie and Joe DeLamalure and that offensive line that used to block for O.J. Simpson back in the day.
McKenzie was one of those blue-collar workers that Kevin Gillespie always talk about. McKenzie would block you until it start raining. And that, they used to have old pads then, you know.
Yeah.
And the gloves, the pass.
Interesting about Reggie McKenzie. I think he had a cousin or brother who later played for the Redskins on the Hogs, Ronnie McKenzie, another big offensive lineman.
That's right.
But as a heck of a team back in the day of the Bills. You had O.J. Simpson in the backfield. You had the quarterback Joe Ferguson. Before him, you had Jack Kemp. After them, you had Jim Kelly, who was a heck of a quarterback. Took him to the Super Bowl 4 times.
He certainly was 4 times with Bruce Smith when he came along, big number 78. And then you had the great coach, Marv Levy.
Tough coach.
Great coach. And so you're right, the Bills had great runs there, and my Cowboys beat them twice. So I like that.
I think the Redskins got them once in one of those Super Bowls.
Certainly did.
And then the Giants got them the other time.
Got them, yeah.
So they all came from the NFC East.
NFC East, Cowboys twice, Giants once, and
that was the AFC East versus the NFC East 4 times, 4 straight years.
4 straight years.
That is kind of crazy too, because Cowboys twice, Redskins once, and then the Giants once.
That's
amazing. Thurman Thomas, great running back in his day. Besides O.J. Simpson, Thurman Thomas maybe the second best running back in the Buffalo Bills history.
Absolutely, hands down. And he just couldn't get it done, unfortunately, to get a Super Bowl ring.
We talked with Joe and talked a little bit today, too, about looking back at that team. Andre Reed, a heck of a receiver. He was in that game back in January 1993. They were trailing against Houston. Houston Oilers had a lead against the Buffalo Bills back in the day, 35-3. And then Buffalo came back, won that ball game behind the quarterback, Frank Reich. Let him back.
Right, absolutely. I'll never forget that. Matter of fact, Warren Moon, and they had a guy from NC State and a Page alumni on the team, Haywood Jeffries. Yeah. And everybody thought that was over. That was it, Warren Moon year. It was the time for Moon. And bless your soul, Frank Wright came in and marched them down, and before you know it, the game was tied. Buffalo go to win the ball game, the greatest comeback in NFL history.
Amazing ball game there. And too, it's about Andre Reed. You talk about Haywood Jeffries. He had a couple years. He had over 100 balls, 100 receptions. But Andre Reed had a ton, but never had 100 receptions in a season. He just had a ton of catches and a lot of touchdowns. And Frank Reich also led Maryland back against Miami back in the day in a great comeback game. It was 31-0 at halftime. Maryland came back and beat Miami. I think it was 41-38 in overtime. Heck of a win there for Frank Wright. Did it in pros and in college.
Yeah, the comeback kid. He can certainly have that title.
And the weird thing is, the way they did it back in that day, too, you remember Boston College came back with Doug Flutie against Miami with that Hail Mary to Gerard Phelan. So that means Miami gave up a lot of big plays and lost some big comeback games back in those days.
Yeah, that was almost like yesterday. The little smallest guy on the field, Doug Flutie, scrambling, looking around, running to the right or the left. And then he just loft it downfield, and all of a sudden his guy come up with it. That's almost crazy as the band on the field, you know,
right.
Running with the ball, pushing it back.
And the crazy about Doug Flutie, you look up last week in that game with Notre Dame, NC State, That game is on NBC, and there's Doug Flutie doing the color commentary.
Doing the color commentary.
He was right there with, who was it, Michael Wilbon? Who's the guy doing it? Mike Tirico.
Mike Tirico, him and Mike
former
Tirico.
ESPN man. Both guys from ESPN guys. Mentioned, Joe, too, about some of the Buffalo Bills in that distant replays time frame back in the day. Mentioned guys like Paul McGuire, used to be the punter and linebacker back in his day.
Those, when you bring up that, and I like this, and that you go back because it takes us and put us back when we first started playing rec league or football. Those are the type guys you wanted to be. Every time you go outside, you wanted to be O.J. Simpson, or you wanted to be, as you talked about, nobody wanted to be a Frank Wright. You ever heard about the guy who wanted to be a Frank Wright?
And nobody wanted to be a guy we mentioned with Joe, two of the top players in Buffalo Bills history. He's in their Hall of Fame. They're trying to get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was the special teams guy, Steve Tasker. He was the gunner. Heck of a man on coverage. One of the best. He made special teams. You don't hear as much about today as you did back then, but he was one of those guys, just had tackle after tackle after tackle. Steve Tasker, special teams, Buffalo Bills.
And Bill Bates.
Bill Bates, guys, got to Tennessee.
You are right.
For Dallas,
Those were the guys, you are right, man. Steve Tasker, he had a heart of a champion, and he would hit you.
And some other guys in that Buffalo distant replay rundown mentioned the kicker Scott Norwood missed that field goal against the Giants. That was, I think, the best chance that Buffalo had to win.
They had to win, absolutely.
Almost got it, but then barely lost that game. Another guy, Jerry Butler out of Clemson, good receiver back in the day.
Woo. Butler was certainly a great player and a great asset to that Buffalo team.
And a few more names again tonight. You're going to have Tyrod Taylor at quarterback out of Virginia Tech. You're going to have Kelvin Benjamin out wide receiver. If he plays tonight, he may not. He may not. Mike Tolbert at fullback. And then Joe Webb all over the place.
So you got three Panthers right there that could make a big difference for the Buffalo Bills.
And the coach, Sean McDermott, the general manager, Mr. Bean, as well. Active. A lot of former Panthers and Buffalo Bills.
Absolutely. Wow.
But again, I'm glad they're playing tonight. The first team to play after the trade. We'll see if Benjamin gets in, see what he does. And we'll see what the Panthers do Sunday. They've got the Falcons. And boy, the Panthers at 5-3. They need that win to go 6-3. They go 5-4. That opportunity, that window is getting smaller and smaller if they don't take care of it Sunday, especially the division game.
Yeah, that's a big, pivotal game for the Panthers, and it's going to be hard to wish your Panthers well after the Benjamin, because that limit Cam Newton of who he can go to, and he's been getting hit so much. But he had Benjamin to bail him out because there's a big receiver.
Right.
All you have to do is just throw it up. And everybody talking about Funches. I can't see Funches filling the shoes of Benjamin.
Funny thing about that, too, is the fact with Cam Newton, he talked about it in one of his interviews this week, but early in the week when everything was still pretty smooth, he talked about the fact he thought that Benjamin had a great game, just a great game against Tampa Bay. They went back to the state of Florida. That's where he's from. His mother had died. He lost his mom. He thought he played well in that game and just had nothing but great things to say about Benjamin coming out of that win against Tampa Bay. 17-3 Panthers that week. They just got beat the week before 17-3 against the Bears.
So that was a big win for them. And then, as you say, and a couple of weeks later, was it 2 weeks later after they won the game in Florida, after they beat Tampa Bay? Was that last week?
This was past Sunday.
Yeah, past Sunday.
Yeah.
And now Benjamin is gone.
He's gone that quick.
Wow,
gone that quick. Tomorrow night, Dennis, we're going to be over in Jamestown. Got the Ragsdale Tigers hosting the Page Pirates. Big football game tomorrow night in Jamestown. Looking forward to it. You're predicting?
I'm predicting Page to win the ball game. A very close game. I'm looking at Page to win by 2 touchdowns is my prediction.
What about that game with Dudley Mount Tabor?
Dudley by a touchdown. That's going to be one of the best games of the season, and I can't see Dudley beating Tabor by more than a touchdown. It's going to be that close.
As we head toward the playoffs, the brackets come out Saturday, hopefully early Saturday afternoon. Give me your top 4 teams from the county, like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1 being the team that goes the furthest in the playoffs. Number 2 right behind them, 3 and 4. Who are our top 4 teams as we go to the playoffs?
Yeah.
The teams have the chance to last the longest.
Let's go with Dudley first, Page second, Eastern Gifford third, and let's throw Southwest in that mix.
Pretty good call. Yeah, pretty good call. Southwest and Southeast kind of battling for that 4th spot. Good call there.
Absolutely.
Good
absolutely. So that's the way that I'm looking at it. And wouldn't it be nice if all 4 of them go beyond? Beyond.
Well, you could have a great mix up there, great collaboration there if you get Southeast, Southwest, and Dudley on that 3A doing something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Page in the 4AA, they hope they can go a long way as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Page would be open the first week. If they win the conference, they'll be getting a bye in the first round. So that'll be interesting too. See how those buys work out.
And that's why I have Page as my second choice and Dudley as my first, because Dudley have opportunity in the lower rankings in the 3A to go further than Page in the 4. Because as you said, you never tell. Page in the 3rd round may see one of the Butler boys or the Malik Creek boy, and you don't want to see those guys.
Yeah, Page goes west.
Wow.
Some of the brackets I saw had one week they had Page in the east, the next week they had Page in the west. It's just been back and forth the past few weeks.
I
I'm not
want
sure
him in
which
the east.
side to be
I
on.
want him in the east, and
Yeah, I tell you, there's a big game in the east tomorrow night too. Wake Forest is going to be going against Heritage, another team from that same city, Wake Forest.
Right.
Both teams 10-0, and the winner of that one probably gets the number 1 seed in the east. I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, real quickly, you know all about, and you're gonna be the businessman in Greensboro on Saturday.
I'll just be sitting back waiting, just sit in my chair waiting for those parents.
To
The
come
preliminary
out.
will be good. You get the preliminary, you post them, and you come back and put the finals up. But there's not too many changes. Boy, Saturday morning, early this afternoon, just sitting there waiting for that to come out.
I remember about three or 4 years ago when they came out, and it was the biggest mix-up because earlier you called it and you had sent it up. Then you said, "Oh, you had to change it." It was they had Northern going this way, and then another one poll came out. Northern was going this way,
Right.
and then it ended up that Northern was able to get the home field and not on the road the first. Yeah, so it was a big mix-up. Like you said, it could be some mix-ups there.
Interest in the West, too. Big game Friday night. It'll be West Forsyth versus Glen. Both teams are 10-0.
Wow.
Glen may be a 4A team, and I know West Forsyth's got to be a 4AA team, so Glen might go to the lower 4A, and that might be to their advantage. But, boy, they're playing tomorrow night for their conference championship as well.
That's going to be big because this year, for a long time, it has been that way to come down to West Forsyth. It's always been West and East. Now you throw in a new kid on the block. That's going to be a big shakeup in West Forsyth.
And Glen is pretty much just taking a little East Forsyth. And East Forsyth was another dominant team.
Yep.
Now East is down this year, and Glen
is up.
is way up.
Way up. And we're not used to calling Glen name in the same conversation with West Forsyth.
They're there this time. That's going to do it for us tonight, we think. We did not see from our Dudley guys. They did not arrive, so we'll take a break. If they do show up, we'll get a quick word with them. Probably not if they're not here already. But that's it from the Kickback Jacks for a Thursday. Thanks for tuning in to our Thursday night football show, Football in Focus. Thanks to Joe Sierra and Dennis White for their good work tonight, and Don Moore's work as well. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow night on the websites. We'll have the football games there for you. It'll be Chris Walzer and Coach Steele. They'll be going over to Mount Tabor, Dudley at Mount Tabor. Dennis and I will be in Jamestown. It'll be Page at Ragsdale tomorrow night. And Don will have scores on the other games. Wyatt Smith will be covering the game between Northwest Guilford and Grimsley at Northwest. A lot of games going on. Last JV games are tonight. Tonight, season is over for the JVs. They're playing their last games. Middle school's only got about a week left. Football is flying out of here. Basketball is almost right on top of us.
Can you believe it, Andy? It seemed just like you and I had wrapped up the state championship in basketball, and then we put on our football uniforms, and now it's almost back to basketball.
Almost back to back.
Wow.
That's right. See you again next week at Kickback Jacks. Thanks for tuning in.
Good night.